Hello friends, this is Dr. John WorldPeace JD. I am the only global advocate for world peace, and I am the only advocate for Jesus Christ. John 14:25-27. I want to talk today about the apartheid state of Israel and their ongoing anti-Semitism against the Palestinians. The Christians are the only reason that America supports Israel, because they believe in the false book of Revelations. I have written much on the false book of Revelations and the false preachers who preach it. Without the Christian base of support for Israel, we would not have the apartheid state of Israel, and we would not have the ongoing murder of Israelis, of Palestinians, which is 50 to 1, 100 to 1. Palestinians being killed versus Israelis being killed. Every time Netanyahu wants to stir up the Zionists and the Israeli right, he starts trouble, often on the Temple Mount, with the Palestinians. The Israelis have tried to force the world to believe that the only anti-Semitism is that lodged, foisted upon the Israelis. That's nonsense. Per the Bible, Abraham had two sons. The first son was Ismael, who he had with Hagar, his wife's servant, and who is the father, if you will, of all the Muslims. Abraham then had a son with his wife Sarah, and he was Isaac. And all the Zionist Jews are the progeny of Isaac. In talking about Israel and the Jews, for me, all of the progeny of Abraham through Isaac are Jews. The radical right-wing Jews I refer to as Zionists. Zionists, when I'm talking about Zionists, are the warmongering, anti-Semitic Jews in Israel, for the most part. Both the progeny of Isaac and the progeny of Ishmael are Semitic people. The Jews are not the only Semites. The Jews promote the idea that the whole world is anti-Semitic, meaning against the Jews. They've tried to hijack that term, anti-Semitic, to apply only to Jews, and it doesn't. It applies just as much to the treatment and abuse and murder of Israelis, Zionists, against the Palestinians. That is anti-Semitism. But you never hear the Jews talk about that. Definitely don't hear the Zionists talk about it. Every time the Zionists kill a Palestinian in Gaza or anywhere else, they are being anti-Semitic. And I can tell you there's no more anti-Semitic people in the world human society right now than the Zionists in relation to their treatment of the Palestinians. Now we have another flare-up, more killings. Nobody does anything about it in a world human society. This is because mainly the American baby boomers, that generation, my generation, people that were born during World War II, after World War II, on into the 50s, even the 60s, early 60s, are considered baby boomers. The baby boomers were very active in civil rights and the anti-war movement in the 60s, and very much against their parents. Don't trust anybody over 30 and all kinds of other sayings. And what's happened over the years is that the baby boomers have become their parents. In America, they're basically conservative, white, racist, most especially against blacks. And basically, they are the core of the Republican Party. Without the Christian support of the Republican Party, they couldn't win dog catcher. We have to break the tie between Christian misunderstandings about the Bible and their role as Americans. I have a book. It's taken me 40 years to write. It's called The Third Millennium, Second Reformation of Christianity. The first Reformation was Martin Luther 500 years ago. Now we have begun the Second Reformation. Very broadly speaking, the Christians call this the Second Coming. They don't really recognize it as the Second Coming as having begun, but it has begun. But it's the Second Reformation of Christianity. The main thrust, the main change is coming about in the Second Reformation is that corporate Christianity is going to be replaced by spiritual Christianity. and it's happening already. In between Palm Sunday and Easter 2019, the cathedral at Notre Dame burned. That was the beginning of the Second Reformation. In December 2019, the COVID-19 pandemic was acknowledged as having begun. The COVID-19 pandemic is a God event. Much of the things in the book of Revelation, many, are happening. But overall, the scenario in the book of Revelations is not the way that corporate Christianity is going to be converted to spiritual Christianity. It's just like 2,000 years ago when the Jews were expecting a Messiah to come out of the sky, conquer the Romans, and give Israel 100% control, the Jews 100% control of Israel. Jesus didn't come out of the sky. He was born to an earth mother, Mary. That same scenario, which was proven false, is repeated in the book of Revelation, that Jesus is going to return from the sky. Well, first off, Jesus said he was never going to leave. Where two or more were gathered, he would be present. And if Jesus never left, how can he come back? I'm trying to speak right now about the anti-Semitism and the murder of Palestinians going on in Jerusalem again. Has a 70-year history. But I have to bring out some of these other things to put that, what's going on there, in perspective. Jesus was born a Jew, lived as a Jew, taught as a Jew, was crucified as a Jew. There was no new church. Jesus is the continuation of Judaism. After the Jews crucified Jesus, God left Israel, abandoned the Jews, as represented by the fact that the veil in front of the Holy of Holies in the temple ripped in half when Jesus died. God abandoned the Jews, and 40 years later, in 70 AD, God allowed the Romans to push and disperse the Jews out of Israel. In the 600s, God turned over Palestine, what was Israel, to the Muslims. God allowed the Muslims to build the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount. In the 1940s and World War II, as God had allowed the Romans to level the temple, Solomon's temple, and Jerusalem, and disperse the Jews off the land, their homeland, and disperse them out in the world. As he allowed the Romans to do that. In the 1940s, God allowed the Nazis to exterminate 6 million Jews. You cannot look at history, the actual facts of history, since the crucifixion of Jesus, as anything more than an abandonment of God of the archaic ancient Jews. The new branch of Judaism was Christian Judaism, with Jesus as the leader. America became, in time, the chosen land, and Americans became the chosen people of God. And I say that because right now, America is the premier nation on the earth. There are 2 billion Christians, almost 2 billion Muslims, and 15 million Jews. A blind man can see that God has moved his favor from the Zionists to the Americans and other Christians around the world. But America is the premier nation. America is anti-Apartheid. Now, all these things that I'm touching on have a lot of backup to go with them. And I can't cover them all in one video. But I'm beginning my videos based upon what I've written, really my whole life. This is my purpose in life, is to deal with what's going on in the world human society, and part of that is what's going on in Israel and must stop. When the baby boomers are out of power, which they will be by just simply dying off in the next 10 years, this Israel situation will resolve itself. That's enough for this video. There will be more. I'm going to try to do 2 or 3 a day. I have 15,000 words on my flagship website, JohnWorldPeace.com. I will be back on later today, converting more of what I've written to video. Thanks for your consideration.